I hope everyone's doing well and enjoying the summer so far. I want to thank the viewers who posted questions and let everyone know there's been very positive feedback for these type of videos. Let's begin. Do you think the Gambinos are going to be hit with a big indictment this year? From what I know and believe, there's a big indictment looming involving more than one family as well as an outside organization, and I'll leave it at that. Were you on the street around the time of the Michael Melnish murder? And when you were still involved, was that murder spoken about at all or kept hush hush? I was around during that time, but it's important to keep in mind murders are not openly spoken about, or at least they shouldn't be. Did the Lucchese's or any of the other families still have crews in Florida during your time? There were a lot of guys who spent time in Florida. Whether they were crewed up or not, I have no idea. Personally, I operated mostly in New York. Here's a similar question. Did you ever have dealings with members based out of New England or Florida? As I just stated, no. New York was our home base. Any dealings or interactions with Frankie Bones Papani? Again, no. Frankie Sharp, as he prefers to be called, was not really around during my time. He was released in 2015 and was still on paper federal probation. If a shelf member dies, are other members allowed to go to the wake or funeral? Did that situation ever occur during your time in the life? It all depends on the administration of a family. During my time, this never happened, but they can give an order for no one to attend. Were there any former Tanglewood boys still around Freddie Boy when you were in alive? Freddie Boy was mostly in the company of his father, Anthony Blue, any time I've seen him. Was Joey Defede always connected to Vic coming up, or did he start out with someone else in the life? Joey's father was big in the heroin business with the Sicilians, but at a young age, he began dating Vic's daughter and eventually married her, so naturally, he became associated to Vic. In Al Diaco's book, he mentioned that after he was straightened out, Paul Vario and Bruno Fasciolo threw a big party for him to introduce him to other members of that crew. Did Big John do that for you and Guzzo, or was he too cheap? To start with, when Diaco was straightened out, times were much different, and they did that sort of thing. But with Anthony and I, following our induction, we went out for drinks with some of our friends, besides Joey DiBenedetto, specifically too. Granted, Big John had short arms and long pockets, but in this case, I think being low-key was the right move. In a crew, was there a clear second in command or vice captain that everyone knew would step into the acting captain spot if the captain was imprisoned or otherwise unable to lead the crew? If not, did the captain decide who would be the acting captain, or did the boss decide if, for example, the captain was in prison? A typical crew always has an acting captain. And if the captain gets locked up, it's the acting captain who will usually step in and run the crew. But the decision is the administration's, whether or not to put another captain or an acting captain in that crew if need be. During your time in the life, did you hear of any sit-downs that took place with bosses from other families? Yes. For example, when an issue of beef gets out of hand and can't be resolved by a member or a captain, it gets kicked up to the administration. And at times, bosses of both families will meet and try to come up with a solution. Was there a limit on how many people can be inducted per year? There's supposed to be, but families are always slipping guys in here and there. And it's like anything else. If there's opportunity, there's motivation. What was it like having to deal with members of the West Side? Were they as secretive as they are portrayed in the media? When it comes to the West Side, they're classic examples of learned behavior, and it's why they tiptoe around in that life. However, they do know what they're doing, as being extra cautious avoids indictments. What kinds of jobs were guys working back when you were around? How did they manage to balance those jobs with everything else the life demanded? A lot of guys were involved in construction, of course, ran painting companies, worked at car dealerships, as well as the restaurant business, food suppliers, etc. And you went about your day at your legitimate job and worked around your schedule of your other life. Just about every guy I knew worked a legitimate job. Has there ever been anything more egregious than the murder of Quebecer and his brother-in-law in 1989? Why were the Lucchese family not punished for it? In August 1989, Robert Quebecer and his brother-in-law, Donald Barstow, were killed by the Lucchese family over the garbage hauling business. At the time, both were cooperating with law enforcement who were investigating the mob's control in the industry, or better characterized as a cartel-like enterprise. Several Lucchese members served time for this crime, and the families of Quebecer and Barstow received a $10.8 million settlement, but understandably, there's no monetary figure that can replace loved ones. Joe Defede testified that he made Patty Dellorusso either an acting or official captain while they were both in prison in 1999. This was shortly before Defede was taken down. Did you ever hear anything about this apparent first stint Patty had as a captain? This is the first I'm hearing of it, and I've never heard anything about this before. And if Defede, who was incarcerated at the time with Patty, put him in a position, then I guess Patty was a captain of no crew inside a federal prison, which sounds about right. He would be a great captain of a one-man crew that included himself. If you haven't liked this video yet, please take the time now and give it a like, as it helps with YouTube's algorithm. For anyone who'd like to show appreciation for videos like this, or to help me continue making them, you can donate with the Super Thanks icon down below, or through the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. Let me quickly mention my blog, also called Sit Down News, especially for those of you who, like myself, still enjoy reading. It can be found at sitdownnews.com and is a paid subscription. And for the final question, you've talked about trying to get away from your captain, John Castellucci, but you would have to request a transfer from your consigliere, Joseph DiNapoli, when Matthew Madonna and DiNapoli were in prison in New Jersey from 2015 to 2017. Could you have asked underboss Stephen Crea to transfer you to a different crew? Okay, first of all, I'm not sure if DiNapoli served time in New Jersey for that amount of time. However, in that life, you don't go to your consigliere requesting to be moved. You have to explain the reasoning behind it. But in my case, going to Joe was a losing battle for me, as he was John's rabbi. And the same would take place with Stevie. What you don't want to do is go put in a beef regarding your captain and then still have to remain in his crew.